Welcome back. And if you're here for the first time, Molweni, I am Dr. Joy, a work psychologist, multi-dimensional healer, and your host for this episode. Now you've heard the stats and you're connecting the dots too. For me, fundamentally, it's a wake-up call that we should all have. And sometimes no one is going to come and save you. And even if you find doctors and healers, it doesn't mean that they can help you. And if they do, for that time, sometimes the remedy doesn't work sustainably if you aren't working alongside it. So wherever down the line you want to meet this call, there's power in learning to take responsibility for your own well-being. This can be overwhelming. So in this episode, I want to share with you 3 things: definitions and perspective on personal well-being so that we can all start using more informed and empowering language throughout our well-being journey. Number 2, some of my self-healing rituals, 101, and personal well-being story, so that we can have a starting point that gives us tangible things to go try out after this episode. And thirdly, reasons why we sometimes don't stick to our new wellness plans and how to go around it to keep things sustainable. Okay, so what does it mean to be well? And why does self-healing matter? Let's start by zooming out, okay? And take a definition from the World Health Organization that defines well-being not just as the absence of disease, but a state in which an individual realizes their abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and can contribute to their community. So there's a collective element to that. There's a capability to it, and there's a coping element. Sometimes I just like simple things. And when I think about what it means to be well, what comes to me is well-being being about returning back to wholeness and alignment to the nature of my being and optimal functioning. Well-being also occurs holistically in essence, meaning that physical well-being cannot be separated from mental well-being and spiritual, financial, and environmental. They're all intersecting and influencing each other all the time. And as a healer in the recent years, I take the human energy approach to well-being, which defines it also as the balanced flow of life force energy throughout the mind, body, and spirit. It draws from the ancient healing systems such as Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, African indigenous knowledge systems, Eastern chakra systems, and modern somatic science to promote self-regulation, emotional or heart coherence, and spiritual alignment. It's based on the principles here that everything is energy, emotions, thoughts, illness, and joys are all energetic expressions that carry different weights in your field. Blocked or stagnant energy leads to imbalance. This can happen mentally, emotionally, and leads to it being physical too. Healing restores the flow. So we move this energy through these stuck points in our system, whether we try breath work with intentional breathing, whether we get into actual physical movement, like a sport or anything like that, whether there's an intention for you to do it, perhaps through a meditation, a ritual, which we'll get into later on in this episode, that have helped me, and also through resonance. And this is an area I dabble in, where we look at sound and vibration in terms of restoring the flow. And lastly, the principle centers around you being aware and embodying of that energy. So energy healing starts with reconnecting to your own felt sense. So this also then means you would have developed a way of understanding what your natural energy feels like, and the ability to be aware when it feels a bit out of the norm, or when your battery feels a bit low, or when your battery is quite high, and then respond to that, to go about your day from an optimal functioning perspective. So it all sounds quite ideal, doesn't it? Which brings me to our isiZulu word of the day, actually. And it is what well-being means in isiZulu. Inhlalakahle, good living, or a state of being well. But the reality in South Africa, or anywhere in Africa, or anywhere in the world probably, looks very different, in that we might know the processes of healing at one level of intellectual education, but not all of us will have the luxury of a therapist or a guide one-on-one, to journey with on this process, to keep us accountable, to remind us of these techniques, and to track our progress forward. And this is when self-healing becomes one way of addressing this lack. And while it does not replace traditional therapy, it is a way of getting to our state of inhlalakahle. Self-healing is not about doing it alone, but is taking the responsibility and the accountability for it. It's about reclaiming your power to nurture your nervous system, energy, and body. And in a way, you think of yourself as the orchestra that pulls together everything that you need after sitting and grounding with yourself and feeling where it is that you need medicine. And in that way, you make the body ready for it, you make the mind ready for it, and you become more receptive of any process, ritual, medicine that you will use. And this is then the power and the magic of self-awareness and embodiment in healing. So where do we begin now that we know the different perspectives to well-being, and using even outside of the dimensions of psychology, which I think sometimes we need to, as psychologists, to just integrate and find the best way of supporting people on this journey. So let me take a moment to share a bit of my story. Every few years, like clockwork, I would burn out. I wouldn't consider myself a type A personality by nature, but when I care about something, I give it everything, okay? I'd get pulled into work, vision, the mission, and wanted things to succeed. And as I climbed high in my career, I realized that there was so much I couldn't control. That pressure turned into anxiety. I'd lie awake with my mind racing in the mornings, just fearful of getting to work. And then I also went through a period of incredible grief, which also turned into depression when my dad passed away. So it's been quite a journey of just navigating my mental health and health in general. Um, For a while, I had a therapist I deeply respected and resonated with. And did you know that's actually also a luxury? Most of the time, people who can't afford therapy struggle to find therapists that they resonate with or that can work with them. And sometimes this cultural dimension, particularly in South Africa, has to do with it, which is why I'm so passionate about including this Afrocentric or indigenous approach to any healing technique so that, the whole body and the spirit of the person welcomes this thing, not just as this Western medicine science, but something that's a part of you, that's been passed down from generations and that your body can receive naturally. But I'm meandering. Let me get back to my story. And I had my therapist, which I really loved and had been working with for years now. We did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, but there came a moment when it no longer touched the depths of what I was feeling. I remember telling her that I just needed a break to pause everything for a bit. Not because I was giving up on my journey, but because something inside me was just seeking more, something that could reach my spirit, something that could help me understand my deeper purpose for being here. Um, Surely I just wasn't about just work and, climbing the ladder and being stressed about it, and coming home and dealing with family dynamics, etc. I didn't have the words for it back then, but I started following small signs. And the first thing that I did was to just go back to nature. It then evolved from there. It's been 6 years now, and along the way, I've developed a set of self-healing rituals that are not perfect, but just have helped me feel more whole, more grounded, in my day-to-day life, and didn't feel like I had to put on a to-do list and add it to my life. It needed obviously integration. And after some time of looking into these things, I realized that's also a science behind why they work, and I'll share a few with you, about five. The first thing that I started to do is pray more, more intentionally, and asking the big question: God, what am I here to do? Why this pain? Why now? Surely the suffering is purposeful. This was not passive prayer, it was intentional conversations with the one who created me. And they say if you haven't uh, woken up in the middle of the night or somewhere in the wilderness and cried out to somewhere, the universe, you haven't yet come to your point of reckoning. And I find resonance with that. And think of a lot of moments that in storylines where that was so. Remember, Eat, Pray, Love, the moment where Julia Roberts was just like, dear God, it's been a while. But here I am, I need you. It was kind of that essence, right? And apparently there's a science to it. So the National Institute of Health shows that spiritual practices such as prayer can actually reduce stress, increase hope, and even rewire your brain regions linked to compassion and resilience. We get this from New Bertal 2010. Number two, I spent more time in nature and in play and movement. I hiked, I practiced yoga, I played tennis, I let myself just play again. I connected back with my inner child. I even went to like some of my hobbies when I was a child, like piano, and just got lost hours and hours doing things that weren't about productivity, but just about reconnecting with myself again from the essence of a child in the world. And this time spent in nature and connected to my body and being outside also comes with a lot of scientific wisdom. In that time in nature is associated with reduced cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and it lowers blood pressure and improves the mood. In 2019, a Japanese study on forest bathing showed that 20 minutes, just 20 minutes outdoors can shift the body into a parasympathetic state, which is a state of rest and restoration. So that's pretty cool. Number 3, I became more intentional with the food that I ate. So it wasn't this obsessive dieting or juicing or anything like that, but it was just conscious. And I'd spend some time going through periods, sometimes even a year or so, just being plant-based. Um, and then I'll go back to meat whenever, or I'll stop just like eating pork whenever I'd feel like that. Just listening to what my body feels, and especially when I feel lighter and more grounded. And the science behind that is the connection between the gut and the brain, which has now been well established, where about 95% of serotonin, which is the mood regulating neurotransmitter, is produced in the gut. So we are what we eat. When we eat better, our gut supports our emotional stability. So that's pretty cool too. Number 4, I practiced meditation and a devotional silence. Some days I did guided meditations. Other days I just sat and I focused on my breathing. And some days that was like 5 minutes. Some days it was 20 minutes. Sometimes it was just sitting and being still and noticing all the different sounds around me. That alone created such an expansive space that grounded me. And the science is that meditation reduces activity in the default mode network, which is the brain's worry circuit. So a study by Harvard researchers showed that just 8 weeks of mindful meditation increased the gray matter in the hippocampus, which is the brain's emotional regulation center. And that is a pathway to well-being. Lastly, the one thing I'll share is my journaling, my vision boarding, and my strategy around life and making that visible, and breathing in my space where I live, in my home. In fact, I had like these affirmations all over my house, and I remember when I'd have someone over, people would feel that energy, and be like, "Oh, I feel all of this stuff." Even before I saw what was written on these post-its, that I'd have all over. So I wrote out personal development plans. It was on my office brown papers. I mapped out the life that I wanted. Even when I was in the dark, this is where I'd return to and just be re-energized and refueled from a spirit perspective. And sometimes it goes through that way. Something that the spirit feels reignites the mind. We can strategize, and then it ignites your physical body to start moving and shifting towards that direction. So journaling helps also just process trauma and regulate our emotions, to call it, to put it out there. Again, this is a process of moving stuck energy from this place of it causing overwhelm, and then naming it and calling it on the paper, moving it from the place of it being something I cannot control and that's affecting me to something that's within sort of my control in a way, as I'm naming and calling it and gaining more courage around it. And visioning also just activates the reticular activating system, which filters your attention towards opportunities aligned with your goals. And this is also neuroscience backed. And basically, with these 5 self-healing rituals and through these practices, I began reconnecting with my body and my spirit and my voice. And I'm not sure if they fixed me more than maybe they realigned me back to self, grounding me and helping me hold myself when the world couldn't, essentially. And this is the power of self healing. But of course, some days are better than others. You might build coherence, resilience as you do this over time. But as with everything that's happening around us, as you experience violence, rage, more trauma, burnout, stress, that is just ongoing in our realities, we can sometimes struggle to stick to these rituals, even when we know what to do. And this is kind of your inner saboteur, to put it just lightly. I found this really amazing answer from this book I've been reading from Amy Shaya. Don't know how to pronounce her. Sorry if I butchered your name, Amy. But in her book, How to Heal Yourself When No One Else Can, she introduces the concept of the Papa Bear, the overprotective inner part of us that wants to keep things familiar. So as you're trying to step into these new practices and rituals, it's the part of you that can say things like, you don't have time to heal. Will this even work? If you change, you'll lose control. This is where the nervous system resists change, because healing requires change, and change feels unsafe to the nervous system. So even journaling or meditating can feel quite threatening when your body's default setting is to fight or flight. We then tend to neglect to do the techniques that we've just been excited about and start sliding backwards on our journey, making ourselves more sick and vulnerable. But there is a solution here that she offers, and she calls it the triple meridian technique. This is a tapping method that stimulates 3 key meridians at once, helping you release emotional charge behind physical and mental systems. So right when you need this way of diffusing the energy, or just redirecting it, let's put it that way, this is when this technique becomes useful, and it doesn't even take that long, about 2 to 3 minutes. We'll try it. Let me just explain what it is first. So it tells the body essentially, you are safe now. So when Papa Bear is coming up and saying you lose control of yourself, it's a response that says, you're safe. It's okay. You can do this. It's not about suppressing the emotion. It's about moving the energy that's been stuck for too long. And you've probably heard of tapping or the EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's a somatic healing tool where you tap specific points on the body to calm your nervous system. Today, I want to share a version of it called triple tapping, based on the ancient Chinese meridian theory and modern neuroscience. It works with your triple warmer meridian. This is an energy pathway that governs your fight, flight, freeze, and even fawn responses. Think of it like your body's energetic stress alarm. When it's overactive after, let's say, prolonged stress, trauma, or even burnout, it can hijack your ability to feel calm, safe, or present. So this has been shown to lower your cortisol or stress hormone. It also sends calming signals to the amygdala, which is the part of your brain that is in charge of fear, and it's telling it we're not in danger anymore. So it diffuses energy. And then the process then rewires your stress response, right? So now we're redirecting the energy through something called neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change. So when you tap these specific points, literally you're changing the chemistry in your body and the patterns in your brain, right? Now let's try it. You only need your breath, your hands, and a willingness to come to yourself. If it's safe to do so, close your eyes or lower your gaze. Inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Inhale, breathe in and arrive. Breathe out and soften. Now bring your awareness to the space around your body. This is your energy field, subtle yet highly intelligent. Imagine it wrapping around you like a warm, safe cocoon. Whisper to yourself, I am safe, I am supported, I am here. Ngiphephile, ngisekelwe, ngilapha. Let's begin with the first point being at the side of your hand, like a karate chop. Tap the soft outer edge of your hand, just below the pinky finger. Keep tapping it lightly with your other finger. This point signals to the body to interrupt the fear loop. Softly say, even though I've been holding stress, I honor how far I've come. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Now let's go to the next point, which is your thymus, the center of your chest. Tap gently in the center of your chest. This stimulates your thymus gland, key to immune functioning and courage. This is where we get saying, say it with your chest. It boosts resilience and rebalances energy. Continue tapping the center of your chest, saying, my body is safe. My energy is returning to harmony. Inhale. Exhale. Last point, number 3. It's a bit awkward. Your underarm. 4 fingers below your armpit. Tap the arm about a hand width below the armpit. This point discharges your emotional residue from the body. As you tap, say to yourself, I release what no longer serves me. I call my energy back now. Breathe in. Exhale slowly. Close your practice. Bring your hand to your heart. Feel the stillness. Subtle shift that has occurred. Whisper one last time. I choose peace. I choose clarity. I choose me. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Nice. Now you can return to this at any time. Your healing doesn't have to be loud, long, or complicated, just present, intentional, and yours. So, what did we just do? Number one, we acknowledge resistance with compassion, where you're talking to your Papa Bear instead of fighting him. Number two, you are regulating first and then you act. You're breathing and you're tapping and you're grounding and then you plan. So you start your self-healing techniques again from this place. But start it with small micro steps. One prayer, one walk, just going outside helps. One vision board page, one word on a post-it in front of your mirror that you look at every morning when you brush your teeth. And that is how we can really get around the part of ourselves that can be an internal sabotager on our wellness journey. And this week, I invite you to use this simple challenge. Go back to it. Didn't take longer than 3 minutes. And practice this technique when you feel a rising sense of irritation, frustration, funk, stress, fear, restlessness, anxiety, wherever. Find a quiet and private place uh, and do your tapping exercise and start journaling what that feels for you. Might be in a restroom store, it might be in an empty room or in your car, wherever really works for you at the time. And that is a wrap for episode 5. Thank you for listening. You have just refueled with HumanFuel, where healing meets conversation and transformation begins with presence. If this episode sparked anything in you, share it with someone you love or someone who needs a little light today. Follow us, subscribe, rate the show, and join the tribe across socials for truth, tools, and more fuel for your journey. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rising, and keep breathing. Siyabong.